What if the reason your corn harvest never turns out the way you expect has almost nothing to do with your soil, your seeds, or even the weather, but instead comes down to something you've been copying your entire life without ever questioning it? Most gardeners don't think twice about how they plant corn. They follow the same pattern they've seen everywhere: long, straight, evenly spaced rows that look clean, organized, and efficient. It feels like the right way to do it because that's how it's always shown in books, on seed packets, and in gardening tutorials. But what almost nobody realizes is that this entire system was never designed for a backyard garden at all. It was designed for machines. Modern corn farming was built around tractors moving in straight lines, mechanical cultivators passing between rows, and large-scale harvesters collecting crops as efficiently as possible. Every detail, spacing, row width, planting diagrams, was optimized for industrial agriculture, not for plant biology. And when you take that system out of its original purpose and drop it into a small garden, something subtle but very important breaks. Because corn doesn't actually care about neat rows. Corn cares about pollen. Corn is a wind-pollinated plant, which means everything depends on how pollen moves through the air at exactly the right moment. The tassel at the top of each plant releases thousands of pollen grains, and those grains have to travel down to the silks emerging from the ears below. Every single silk represents one potential kernel. If a grain of pollen reaches it, a kernel develops. If it doesn't, that space stays empty forever. This is why corn cobs often tell a hidden story. When you see gaps, missing rows, or uneven kernels, you're not just looking at a cosmetic flaw. You're looking at a record of failed pollination written directly into the structure of the cob itself. And in most cases, that failure is not caused by poor soil or bad seed. It is caused by something far more fundamental: how the plants are arranged in space. In long, narrow rows, pollen movement becomes completely dependent on wind direction. If the wind blows across the row, much of the pollen drifts past the plants and falls into empty space. If it blows along the row, the first few plants receive most of the pollen, while everything further down the line is left with very little. The result is inconsistent pollination, uneven ears, and a harvest that never reaches its full potential. Sometimes, nearly half of all silks on a plant never receive pollen at all. Most gardeners blame everything except the real cause. They think it was the soil, or the weather, or the variety they chose. But the truth is much simpler and much more frustrating. It's the shape of the planting itself. And once you understand this, you start to see why some traditional farming communities have been getting dramatically better results for generations. In Amish farming regions across parts of the United States, corn is often not planted in long rows at all. Instead, it is grown in dense rectangular blocks, tight grids where plants are placed close together in all directions. From a distance, these blocks look almost like solid walls of corn. And that simple change completely transforms how pollination works. Inside a dense block, pollen doesn't have anywhere to escape. It doesn't drift off into empty soil or get carried away in a single direction. Instead, it circulates continuously through a concentrated group of plants, getting caught and re-caught no matter which way the wind is blowing. Instead of a one-direction system, you get a self-contained pollination environment. The difference shows up clearly in the harvest. Ears become fuller, kernels more consistent, and in many cases, plants become strong enough to support a second ear on the same stalk. Not because of special genetics, not because of fertilizer, but because the spatial design finally matches the way the plant actually functions. And once you see that, the entire idea of growing corn changes. Because now success is no longer random. It becomes structural. Of course, not every block performs the same. There are a few simple rules that determine whether this system works well or collapses into overcrowding and weak growth. And everything starts with one basic principle: size. A corn block needs mass to function properly. The absolute minimum is a 4x4 grid, 16 plants arranged in a square. Anything smaller than that, and the system starts to lose its effect. The plants are simply too isolated and pollen begins to behave like it does in rows again. Once you reach that 4x4 threshold, something changes. Pollen density increases, wind interference decreases, and pollination becomes noticeably more reliable. Larger blocks, 5x5 or 6x6, strengthen this effect even further. And if space allows for something like an 8x8 grid, the system begins to approach the efficiency of commercial-scale fields. For most home gardeners, though, the sweet spot sits somewhere between 16 and 36 plants. That's enough to create a strong internal pollination zone without requiring a large field. But size alone is not enough. Spacing is just as important. Instead of wide industrial-style rows, corn in a block should be planted in a true grid, with plants spaced roughly 8 to 12 inches apart in every direction. This creates density, which is what allows pollen to accumulate and circulate instead of dispersing into empty space. At first, this kind of planting can feel wrong. It looks too tight, too crowded, almost like the plants are competing too aggressively. But corn actually responds very well to this environment when it has enough nutrients and water. It grows taller, stronger, and more focused on vertical development, while also supporting its neighbors against wind stress. However, that density comes with a requirement. The soil has to be better. Corn is one of the most nutrient-demanding crops in the garden, especially when it is grown in close clusters. Before planting, the soil needs to be enriched with a generous layer of compost worked into the topsoil. And later in the season, when the plants begin rapid growth, they benefit from an additional feeding to support ear development and kernel formation. Watering also becomes more important in a dense system. Deep, consistent watering is far more effective than frequent light watering because it encourages strong root systems instead of shallow growth. And once the plants reach a certain height, mulch becomes essential for moisture retention and temperature stability. As the system develops, another step becomes critical: stability. Corn grows tall and can be vulnerable to wind. By gently mounding soil around the base of each stalk as it reaches knee height, the plant develops stronger brace roots that anchor it firmly into the ground. This small step often determines whether a block survives a summer storm intact or collapses overnight. Then comes one of the most overlooked but important rules of all: synchronization. Corn does not pollinate endlessly. It has a narrow window when tassels release pollen and silks are receptive. If those windows do not overlap properly across the block, even a perfect layout can fail. That is why each block should contain a single variety planted at the same time, ensuring that all plants reach pollination stage together. When all of these conditions align, structure, spacing, soil, stability, and timing, something very noticeable happens in the garden. Corn stops behaving like a fragile, unpredictable crop and starts behaving like a system that actually understands how it wants to grow. And at that point, the harvest often surprises people who have been growing corn their entire lives. Because suddenly, the difference is not just in how much corn you get. It is in how complete it becomes. Full ears, even kernels, strong stalks, sometimes even multiple ears per plant. And the most surprising part is that none of it required new technology, special seeds, or complicated methods. Only a different shape.